Hi, welcome to Snails and Fairy Dust. Today we're going to be making these really fun earrings. I call them a pop of poppy. You can find the pattern on my Etsy shop or my Shopify shop. I will post the links below, and then you could follow along and make your own pop of poppy earrings. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the supplies we're using today. I'm using Miyuki delicate seed beads in a size 11. You can find the exact color numbers on the pattern. I have a size 12 beading needle. I have these leverback ear wires, which are my favorite kind of ear wires to use. I have thread guards, which are also called wire guards sometimes. And I'm using Fireline beading thread in a 6-pound weight. And I have clippers and my pattern, and I'm ready to go. Get started, I'm going to cut 4 to 5 feet of my fire line and thread my beading needle, and then I'm going to pick up the first 4 beads in the first row of my pattern. So those are my 4 beads. I'm going to pull them down towards the end of the tail, leaving a 3 to 4 inch tail to weave back in later. And then I bring my needle around and come back up through the first 2 beads. Like so. It's going to make a sort of loop. And it will force the beads to sit next door to each other like this. And then I'm going to take my needle and go down the second 2 beads to complete the loop. And then I'm going to do that loop one more time since this is the first loop of our pattern. We want to make it extra strong. So I come back up through the first 2 beads. And then I'm going to come down through those second 2 beads again. And then I pick up the next 2 beads in my pattern. And then I come down through the last 2 beads, like so. And then I come up through the new beads I've just added. And we have our next 2. And now we're just adding 2 at a time. So I'm following along with my pattern. These are the next 2 beads in my pattern. And I'm bringing my needle up through the last beads that I've added. And then I come down through those newest 2 beads. And you see it's creating like a little, what looks like a ladder, which is why it's called ladder stitch. I pick up my next 2 beads. And I come down through those last beads that I've added. Like so. And then back up through those new beads. There we go. And then we continue on this way until we get to the end of that row in our pattern. And when you get there, join me back here, and then we will add our first row of brick stitch. So keep on beading. When you get to the end of this row, I'll see you back here. Okay, so here we are having completed our row of ladder stitch. You should have something that looks like this. Those little thread bridges between the beads are what we're going to use to connect the next row. So I'm going to pick up my 4 beads in my next row, and I'm going to bring my needle underneath the second little thread bridge, like so. Move this thread out of the way. Okay, so bring that through, and you should have something that looks like this. And next, to get them to sit in the right position, you're going to bring your needle back through the second 2 beads, and then down through the first 2 beads, like so. And then back up through the second 2 beads. And there you go. Now you've begun your first row of brick stitch. From here on out, we're just adding 2 beads at a time. So I pick up my next 2 beads, I slide under the next thread bridge, and then I come up through those 2 beads. And let's take a look at that again. So pick up your next 2 beads, go underneath the thread bridge, underneath the next thread bridge, and then you're going to go straight back up through those 2 beads, just like so. And you continue to build the row in this manner, adding 2 beads at a time until you get to the end of that row. And when you get to the end of that row, you work back in the opposite direction. I'm just going to show you one more time. We're going to go underneath the next thread bridge and then straight back up through those 2 beads. Easy peasy. Okay, so continue to build your row that way, following your pattern until you get to the end of that row, and then meet me back here and I'll show you how to start a row of brick stitch again, because I feel like that's the trickiest part. So let's just go over that one more time. I'll see you back here in a second. Okay, so here we are. We've completed our first row of brick stitch and we're going to start the next row. And I just want to show you how we begin a row again. So I pick up my 4 beads, slide my needle underneath the second thread bridge from the outside, pull that through. Now we're going to bring our needle up through the second 2 beads, and then down through the first 2 beads, and up through the second 2 beads again. There we go. And now from here on out, we're just adding 2 beads at a time, just like you did with the previous row, following along with our pattern. So keep going there. And when you get to the part of your pattern where you have to switch from double brick stitch to single brick stitch, then you will join me back here and I will just show you the difference with that. Okay, so see you soon. You keep on beading and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so here we are, having completed all of the double brick stitch row of the top half of the earring. I've picked up the first 2 beads in my single row of brick stitch. So I have my 2 beads, pull it through the second thread bridge, and then I come back up through the second bead, down through the first bead, if I can get there. And then you know where we're going with this. We're coming back up through the second bead. It's just like the double brick stitch, except you're doing single. So this row, you build it up 1 row of beads at a time rather than 2 rows of beads at a time. So continue to build that row 1 bead at a time. And then when you get to the end of your pattern, which is 2 more rows of the single brick stitch, meet me back here and then we'll add our wire guard. Okay, so here we are having completed all of the beadwork on the top half of our bead, and we want to add this wire guard. And I want it to be in the center of the beadwork. I want it to come right on top of these center two beads. So in order to do that, I need to weave my thread back down into the work and then come back up through those two center beads. So I'm going to go down 3 rows here. And then I bring my needle back up towards the top. And my thread is being hidden in between these beads. Make sure you're pulling it tightly. And then one more row, I'll be up at the top. So now I'm going to exit here. And I want to make sure I'm in the right place. And I'm taking a look and I realize I'm not actually in the center. So move my needle in here. Now I'm in the center. I pull that through and now my thread is ready to add my thread guard. So I pick that up and you see there are little holes in the bottom of it. I'm going to put my needle through that hole, pull it down to the beadwork, and then I bring my needle down through the other side of the thread guard and into the other bead. And then I go down into my work and I'm just going to weave this down and come back up so I could really secure that thread guard. So I'm coming back up and I'm going to exit into the thread guard again. And then I come down through the other side of the thread guard. And now we've gone through there twice, so that's extra secure. And after that, I will weave my thread down into the beadwork and secure it. So I'm going to go down a few rows. And then what I want to do is find 2 sets of 2 beads next to each other, which I'm going to loop around. So you see here, I'm making a loop around these 2 sets of neighboring beads. This creates tension so that your thread won't come undone. So I'm going to just do that one more time around. Go up. And then I am ready to clip that thread. And I will add a thread to start the bottom half of this earring. Okay, so now I am adding a new thread so that I could build the bottom half of this earring. Also, if you had plenty of thread left, there's no reason to add a new thread. You could simply weave that down and use up the thread you have. I hate to waste thread, but I wanted to show you how to start a new thread as well. So I am starting my thread by looping around 2 beads, which I'm using basically as an anchor. So I'm going to loop around those 2 sets of 2 beads 2 times. It creates the tension that that thread will not go anywhere. And then I will work my needle down through the outside edge of the beadwork so that it's exiting through the first 2 beads in the row of ladder stitch. And then I just simply begin to build this pattern the same way I did before, but I'm going the other direction now. Okay, and here we are, we've done that, and our thread is exiting the bottom outside row, and we're ready to add our fringe. We're almost there, so I'm adding the beads from the fringe. There they all are. And then I take my needle and I come up through the opposite outside bead in that bottom row, like so. And then I'm going to come down through the neighboring bead. And then I add the next beads in the next row of the pattern. We'll skip ahead because it's boring to watch that. Here we go, we have our beads. And then we bring that up through the opposite bead on the other side, which is the second second bead from the outside, like so. And then we bring it right back down through the neighboring bead, so the third bead from the outside of that bottom row. And again, we add our beads according to the pattern. There we go. And we bring that up through the third bead from the outside on the opposite side. Only this time, we will continue to take our thread into the beadwork and secure that thread by weaving around 2 sets of neighboring beads like we've done many times now, and I hope you're a pro at it by now. So apparently I'm not a pro, I just dropped my needle. So we're going to take that up and weave it away into the beadwork. And then we're almost done. All we'll have to do after that is clip our strings and add on our ear wire. So I'll meet you back here for that. Here's my ear wire. Take a pair of pliers and I gently open the loop at the bottom of that ear wire. And then I clip on my thread guard, close that back up, and there you have it. Beautiful earring. Okay, so if you have made it this far, you are probably super proud of yourself. Look how gorgeous these are. These are my favorite earrings to wear. I hope you get lots of compliments, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks so much for watching it, and if you stayed through to the end, I hope you will subscribe, and I'll see you back here. Bye!